Before we get started, maybe the people online can help me do a sound check. Can you hear me okay? Great, thanks for the feedback. And people here in the room, we'll get started in just a moment or two, but just a reminder for those who are here in person that we have had a few thefts in cars and bicycles over the last 12 months. And we just want to remind everybody to take the necessary precautions. Don't ever leave a backpack in your car that's in plain sight. Just do the obvious thing of locking it in your trunk, or you're always welcome to bring it into the hall. We also don't leave anything in the lobby. Just bring it in to the hall. This is a public space, and sometimes people come in and look for things. And then also with bicycles, just to make sure that you have a good lock. And it's always okay if you feel like you don't have a good lock to bring them down into the basement and lock them down in the basement. And we'll be getting a bike rack down there, but for now you can just lock them in the workshop. And one of the program hosts, Tim or Jenny, can help you with that. And maybe also while we're getting started, I'll just remind everybody that I usually prepare a document with some resources for these talks. So those of you online, and we have a live stream and Zoom crowd here, about the same size probably of the people in the room. And for those of you online, I put that into the chat on Zoom, and you can see that it's a Google Doc. It has links to support the Teachers and Center here, but also it has some, like if you want to read the chapters that we've been reading from Ajahn Chah and some supporting materials, there's always a few study materials if you want them. For those in the room, you just have to go, when you get home, go to the Common Ground website, find the calendar, the public online calendar, look for the Sunday morning or Tuesday night sitting group that I lead, and you'll see the link for that Google Doc there, and you can get it for yourself. So let's go ahead and use our time for meditation, maybe 30 minutes or so. Each of us finding our own way to find a stable, relatively comfortable sitting posture, knowing that it won't be perfect. But if you're sitting on the floor and you think you'd be more stable and comfortable on a chair, then just feel free to make that adjustment. Some people find it useful to take a couple of longer, deeper breaths as a simple ritual at the beginning of a meditation period, where you're slowly filling and emptying the lungs in a relaxed way. And just use that simple ritual as a way of coming more fully into the present moment, into the experience of the sitting body, breathing body. It's not about control, it's more about learning how to be present, intimate with the way it is. So maybe one more of those longer, easy, deeper breaths in and out. Take your time. And eventually we let the breathing continue on its own, knowing that the body knows how to breathe. Doesn't require mental oversight. And this alone is such a simple but deep learning how to be present with a natural process. For example, breathing in and breathing out. How to really be there, aware, curious, but at the same time not imposing any agenda, or not getting confused by what we feel, watching, observing the breath come in and go out. But allow that natural process of breathing in and breathing out to be the way it is. Even if it feels tight or controlled, Oh, that's how it is now. Breathing in feels like this. Breathing out is like this. Can this be okay for the body to do the breathing, however the body's going to do the breathing? It's a powerful surrender, the nature of the breathing process. And a couple of weeks ago when I was teaching, we talked about the middle way, a central teaching from the Buddha. And the middle way is just the way the Buddha talked about how indulging in experience or trying to control it or trying to get something from being aware of the breath, for example, is stressful. But he also mentioned that neglecting or being unaware, being distracted, is also stressful. So the middle way, we get to practice in this very simple, concrete way, like how to be present with the breathing process now, not forgetful, not distracted, how to be present without trying to get something from the experience of being present with breathing in and breathing out, not controlling it, trying to make something happen, but also not falling at the other end of the spectrum of neglecting, forgetting, getting distracted, losing our fresh curiosity, our real vivid presence. So see if you can explore this middle way, and the breath is just a training ground. Trying to understand what the Buddha was pointing to when he talked about the middle way. Another way we talk about the middle way is intimacy without attachment, without identification. How to be really interested, present, open, but not attached, not taking anything to be more than what it is, just the breathing in being known, and the breathing out, a sensation being known. You might be surprised at how powerful, how much learning happens when we undertake this training as I've just described. So let's continue now in silence. Do the best you can. Start over whenever you need to. This whole activity of this middle way of being with the breath, the breathing process, it all arises because we care about our life. We're just trying to understand what we're not clearly understanding, see what we haven't seen about the nature of our mind and experience, and how stress arises and how stress can cease. So we'll continue now in silence. So this practice of the middle way isn't just when we're being aware of the natural process of breathing in and out. Much of our experience is noticing those moments when we notice there's been distraction, mind has been lost in thought. And then the middle way is that moment of opening to what it feels like having been lost in thought without trying to control the situation or judge or try to get something from the thinking, the content, nor is it about rejecting it. It's just a moment being known. Oh, it's like this now. That's the middle way. That realization, that moment of intimacy without attachment. Oh, it's just this experience being felt or being known. Not more, it's not less than this. And now for the last 2 minutes or so, it can be helpful to practice with the eyes open. Of course, we're not looking around, just aware of the breathing process in the body, aware of hearing, aware of seeing, aware of mental activities. And for just these 2 minutes, exploring again that middle way. We're not acting out those habits of wanting to control our experience, trying to get somewhere or fix something. And nor are we neglecting or being distracted. So what does that mean for us now to be both open, sensitive, awake, and at the same time free of attachment, free of any fixed idea about anything? And in this ordinary way, we can get a taste of what the path is all about, this peace of intimacy without attachment, being present or open without identifying with any struggle. And we can call it peace, we can call it contentedness, ease with conditions. But what's really important is to understand directly this taste of freedom. This release from stress. The release of non-clinging. Letting things be. So let's take a moment. Feel free to stretch out your body as you need to, so that you'll be comfortable for the discussion, the talk now. And maybe some of you will want to stay for the optional small groups that we have from Minnesota time, 11:45 to 12 noon, the last 15 minutes. Optional, of course, but whether you're online or here in the room, we'll help organize those. It's just a nice way to get, on just the basic level, get to know people in the community, which can be very helpful. Because we are, as I'm sure those of you who've been at it for a while know, we're going against the stream of our culture, which is so much about distractedness. And I mean, we're all this. I'm not judging other people. I'm shining the light on me and every one of us, superficial, distracted, kind of, getting immediately pulled around and pushed around by our liking and not liking every moment. We see somebody in the room or in one of those little Zoom boxes that we like because we know them or whatever, and it's like it affects us if we're not aware. We could kind of go down that tunnel, or if somebody repulses us for some reason, or our own thought of ourself repulses us, right? We're just constantly in this dynamic of being pushed around by liking and not liking. greed and aversion. And this is our human predicament. And it's so revealing, to kind of meet each other here in this more simple way. I mean, I'm not trying to be philosophical, but about being real with each other. And this talk and the previous talk, when I was here last on Sunday morning, is on this central teaching from the Buddha, probably best translated as, there is this presence of uneasiness in our lives. This, you could call it an existential uneasiness, and it's not just the ordinary, unavoidable physical pain and emotional pain that we bump into from time to time, right? That's real too, and significant. But even when things are going well, there's an underlying uneasiness. Well, on just one level, like, I don't know how long these nice conditions are going to last. And because I'm dependent on these nice conditions lasting, my heart's a little uneasy about that. Like, now some of you know I've had a pretty serious health crisis this about 9 months ago, I guess it was, and I'm still kind of in the weeds with it, but I'm doing pretty well. But I don't know how long. There's a lot of uncertainty, as some of you know well, with these sort of mental or physical health crises that we get. And it kind of comes with the territory of being a human being. Nobody's immune. If you've had a good 5-decade run, that just means you've had a good 5-decade run. You don't know what's around the corner, right? I had a pretty good 64-year decade run, or whatever it was before I got sick. I was really a healthy person. And then I wasn't. So just an encouragement that it's actually really supportive. Now, some of you have good Dharma groups or good Dharma friendships or spiritual friendships, but if you don't, sticking around for the small groups that we have at the end is a really good way to start to build some friendships. And we usually just create those groups randomly, so you get to know different people. The way they work is everyone gets like 2 minutes, 3 minutes at the most, just to check in about like what inspired you, or what was confusing about the talk, or what do you disagree with, or anything that's related to the talk or to your practice. You got your 2 or 3 minutes. And the other 2 or 3 people that are there with you online or in person here in the building, they just hold space for you to have that 2 minutes. Then the next, then the next, then the next. And then usually 5 or 7 minutes for just open conversation. And then Lucy online, or Tim or Jenny here in the building will ring the bell at 12 noon Central Time, so that the small groups have an ending time. So just my plug. Keep that in mind, even if today isn't the day. It's like, and really look at your avoidance. For some of you, like I said, you might have just lots of natural, close connections with people who have a spiritual practice that resonates with your own and you can bounce off of. But if you don't, then it's really helpful. A little later this fall, I'm not sure about the date right now, but Madhuri and myself and Jen Racho are going to be doing a workshop on spiritual friendship, some of the Buddhist teachings on spiritual friendship. We'll announce that. We have a date, but we're not sure if it's going to work for our schedule, so we might have to change it. So as I mentioned, I've been talking about this first teaching where the Buddha talks about dukkha, this uneasiness. And I mentioned, I think 2 weeks ago, because I was traveling, teaching out west last weekend. Shelley taught, the other guiding teacher here. And but prior to that, I talked about the middle way. That's how the Buddha began this teaching on dukkha. He didn't just say, hey, how about that suffering in our lives? He said, he kind of, hopeful message, there is a way to practice. And it isn't about, because often what we do is it's like, we take control, we kind of grab life by the reins and say, okay, I'm going to get rid of what's unpleasant and I'm going to get what's pleasant. And that's sort of a normal mode until we get disappointed enough in life where we forget this. It doesn't work. I've tried to get my pleasantness. I try to get rid of my unpleasantness, whatever that might be for each of us. But I'm not totally in control. You know, there are other factors in play. Have you noticed? Despite our efforts to be competent and our efforts to be sincere and work hard, relationships don't always work out, you know, or jobs don't always work out, or choosing to live in a particular place doesn't always work out, or whatever. And even if it does work out, it doesn't mean the work's done. So we tend to swing from like being the doer, hoping that the doing's going to lead somewhere lasting that I can count on, to really starting to have doubts about being the doer and wondering, can I just give up? You know, and we notice that when we start indulging in things that we know don't go anywhere, like watching way too much TV or something like that, or drinking too much, or exploring drugs, or things like that. Like, I just want out. I just don't want to be a doer anymore, right? So does everybody know those two ends of the spectrum? Because that's kind of dominates us as humans. I mean, that dynamic between going for it and being done going for it, right? And so the Buddha's pointing that out. That was the middle teaching. And then he's going to talk about the path, right? He says it's not this and it's not that. It's this middle way. And then he articulates the middle way. And that's what I want to kind of outline today. And maybe I'll start by just sharing this passage from Thich Nhat Hanh. And I do have a quote in that document I mentioned earlier from Thich Nhat Hanh that's similar to this, not this exact one. Life is both dreadful and wonderful. To practice meditation is to be in touch with both aspects. Smiling means that we are ourselves, that we have sovereignty over ourselves. And I think what he means by sovereignty over ourselves isn't like dominating ourselves. It just means we really get what it is to have a mind and body. We know how to relate, we know how to show up being a human being because we've paid attention. That we have sovereignty over ourselves, that we are not drowned in forgetfulness. How can I smile when I'm filled with so much sorrow? It is natural. You need to smile at your sorrow because you're more than your sorrow. Right? And we probably have had some similar experience to what this passage points to, where something, you know, in an objective sense, bad has happened to us. And then that normal reaction to something bad happening to me happens, right? But there's that, you could call it like a space of wisdom that sees the bad thing happening, sees my mind reacting to the bad thing in a predictable way. Oh no, not this. You know, whatever we do when something bad might happen like that. But then there's let's say a third thing that observes or feels, knows all of that, isn't confused by the bad thing happening or the so-called negative reaction to the bad thing happening, knows, oh yeah, that's what happens sometimes. Bad stuff happens, this emotional reaction arises, and now there's this third thing, which is this compassion or wisdom that understands, oh yeah, this is the human predicament. I don't have to add anything on to what just arose. This bad thing happened. This habit of reacting in this way arose, and wisdom understands it, isn't confused by it, doesn't see it as something outside of nature. It's just, oh yeah, that's this unfolding of causes and conditions, as we sometimes say. Here's a few more stanzas that same thing. So Thich Nhat Hanh is a well-known Buddhist monk who died a couple years ago from Vietnam originally, taught in the West for many decades. He died well into his 90s, when he was well into his 90s. And this is a wonderful poem you can look up online. It's available. Please Call Me by My True Names by Thich Nhat Hanh. And these are the last three stanzas. My joy is like spring, so warm it makes flowers bloom all over the earth. My pain is like a river of tears, so vast it fills the four oceans. Please call me by my true name so I can hear all my cries and my laughter at once, so I can see that my joy and pain are one. Please call me by my true name so I can wake up, and so the door of my heart can be left open, the door of compassion. So this is a powerful way to talk about, to reflect on the middle way and this relationship with suffering. And as I mentioned this 2 weeks ago when I gave the beginning part of this talk, for people who are well into their practice, really understand both the teachings and how they apply it to my actual experience, so it's not philosophical or theoretical, then all we see, what we're really paying attention to, even as we do everything we have to do in life, it's not like we're distracted or disconnected from our duties and responsibilities, but what we're really interested in is that in any moment, stress, resistance, taking things personally, getting attached is arising, or getting tight about things, getting attached, isn't arising. It's ceasing, it's falling away. So like even now, as we're, most of you are listening, presumably. So even now it's like, is attachment arising or ceasing? Is clinging, taking whatever is up for you in this moment, taking it personally, or the releasing of taking it personally? Because when the heart releases that taking it personally, there is that natural, what's left when the heart isn't taking any experience personally in any given moment, what's left then? What is the not taking the moment personally actually like for us in a moment? Right? We have kind of conventional terms like we say being in the flow, but it's the absence of greed and aversion dominating the mind. Because greed and aversion always arise because we're taking something personally. If somebody gets up and leaves, I don't know if they have to go to the bathroom or whatever, or they're just bored with the talk. But if I take it personally, right, it hurts. If I can, and that may be true, but I don't have to take that personally. It's like, well, I'm doing the best I can. So it may be actually not a good talk, but it's like I'm all in, so either people are going to benefit from it or they're not, but the suffering is really an option for my heart, isn't it? So even if we have good evidence that they're leaving or somebody is bothered because of our own limitations, being an imperfect human being at whatever we're doing, maybe that's okay. Doesn't mean we wouldn't prefer to have more competence, but when we don't, because there are lots of places in life where we have limited skill or competence, or just the conditions aren't really suitable to be successful. And then, of course, every one of us, including ourselves, are going to react negatively to our bad performance, right? Because that's just how it is. Suffering arises and suffering ceases. And that's like a different way of moving through life. Just to be curious about that. And it doesn't mean you change anything you're doing in your life. So we're not talking about formal meditation times, but just that's actually what my heart cares about. Is there tightness now? Is there a freezing up, a squeeze, a holding on, a fixation, a rejection, any of those sort of stressful movements in my heart? Okay, then let me have a relationship with that. Or if not, get interested in the non-squeeze, the heart not being burdened. Well, what's that like? So for people online, we have a sundial we have a skylight in our meditation hall here in Minneapolis, and right around the equinox, every year, twice a year, You know, we get these Sundays where, Sunday mornings, where the sun is right in the eyes of the speaker. So let me go through this discourse. So I've been talking about it's considered, at least traditionally, the first Dharma talk the Buddha gave after his own deep insight, deep awakening. And he tracked down his 4 friends that I described a couple weeks ago, and this is what he said to them. He talked about the middle way, and then he talked about the path. And remember, this is called the Four Noble Truths, and it's basically like an ancient Indian terms of medical diagnosis. So he's sort of using that kind of structure to talk about our human existential situation. You know, there is this illness, right? My heart is uneasy. And even when I'm doing well in a given moment, at the time of my life, if I peel back the layers, there's even uneasiness then. It's just that I'm kind of absorbed in the pleasantness of what's going on. But there's always uneasiness when we look for it, until there isn't, until there's some deep realization. So the medical diagnosis is there is this illness. We call it dukkha in Buddhism. And it just means that unsatisfactory, uneasy quality in experience. Sometimes, obviously, it's more pronounced, like when we stub our toe or somebody insults us. But when we look, we see that even when there's a lot of joy, there can be that uneasiness, like wanting it to last, wanting to kind of own it and lock it down so it doesn't go away. And then the second one is, this underlying dis-ease, uneasiness, it has a cause. That's the second noble truth. It's like a human starts to get interested in its existential situation. There's dukkha, but it's conditional, meaning it arises because of conditions, and most importantly, it arises due to the understanding of my own heart, my own mind. When there's ignorance, there's this dukkha, just to keep it simple. And with the dropping away of that ignorance, there's no dukkha. Now we need to realize that dropping away of ignorance. So there is this illness. It has a cause, right? Oh yeah, when there's this, there's that. When there's attachment, when I take things personally, then my heart has this tendency to get tight, to be burdened. Like even around our practice, we can start to take it personal. Like if I really get this down, if I become a good meditator, you know, and then, but the mind concocts that idea, Mark as a Buddhist meditator, and then which is fine. There's nothing wrong with having the idea, yeah, maybe I'll try to do meditation in my life. But when the mind identifies with it, that's the squeeze, and then it becomes a burden. It's like, because now I'm not the meditator I want to be. So I'm not happy. I'm uneasy now, because later when I become this idea that I've just concocted in my mind, then I'm going to be free or happy or better or whatever. So we've created the tension. That's that second noble truth, is really seeing that the real cause, this is a powerful change, insight, because it really challenges all the ways we want to blame others and the world for our disease, our discomfort, and our unhappiness. And we start to see, oh, no, there's some deep, pervasive habit here. And you can call it taking things personally, or getting attached, or clinging, identifying with experience, with thoughts. But whatever you call it, you want to know it directly, experientially. So the words, attachment, like a word, attachment, you want that to mean something in your own, like, oh, I know what it means to be attached. Oh, I know what it means to be identified. Or I know what it means to take things personally, experientially. I know that. As a felt, I know the squeeze of that. I know the burden of that. And then the third noble truth, enlivening, liberating truth that the Buddha points to is there's cessation. There's an ending of that squeeze. And we should get to know that. When there's no attachment, in little moments of our life. Just don't think about like being a Buddha, but just ordinary human being here in the room, on Zoom, those moments where we were attached, and then for whatever reasons, some clarity, whatever, or just too heavy to hold the attachment, the mind lets go. And the interesting question is, can we remember what that is like? What is that experience of not holding, not attaching, not identifying, not taking it personally? Because the more we get interested in those moments of the ceasing, the cessation of the squeeze, the more the mind begins to generalize like, oh, maybe this is the way. Like all moments of my life, the birth of my child, the death of my loved one, winning the lottery, losing my job, stubbing my toe, a good hug from a friend, that squeeze isn't needed anywhere, that identification. We often talk about it, and again, this is just words, but it can be useful for some of you. Like, of course, whatever we are, this body and mind, this life we have here, of course, it's just nature, right? Nature, just causes and conditions. Like weather is nature, the meadow, the forest, the ocean is nature. This is a natural process too. And even within this, the liver, the kidney, those things that we name, we have labeled, they're just their own little natural process that's interacting with bigger natural processes. Just like this Mark Nunberg here, mind-body here, is interacting with all of those mind and bodies out there, right? And then with the wider and wider circles, it's just nature. Just nature. So when weather blows in as nature, or a season changes from fall to winter or from summer to fall, is there friction, resistance in that natural transformation from summer to fall, or from a hot day to a cooler weather system, or clear weather to stormy weather? We don't think about like, oh, the stormy weather really doesn't want to give way to the clear weather that's blowing in, right? We don't think about it that way. But as human beings, we do think about it that way. Like things have been going well, but now this bad stuff's starting to happen in my life. No, we resist it. Because we don't understand, we're just natural, these sort of different natural patterns, natural processes interacting with each other. Even my habits of taking things personally, that's also just a habit. That's a natural process, that what we in Buddhism might call wrong view or misunderstanding. That self-view, self-centered view, that's also nature. So is wisdom. What isn't nature? So this is what the Buddha is going to point to, and he's not trying to sell us on a metaphysical or philosophical truth. He's giving us a process. So here's the process. It's in 12 Insights, and I gave in that document that I mentioned, I have the outline of these 12. So if you want to study them more, just find that document that I mentioned at the beginning of the talk today. So they're called the 12 Insights of the Four Noble Truths. So I mentioned the Four Noble Truths. There is this illness, we call it dukkha, uneasiness of the heart. It has a cause. There is cessation, or the capacity to let go of the cause, and when we let go of the cause, attachment, then it ceases, and there's a path. And so these 12 insights, it's really mapping out the path, the practice. And not to even think of it as a linear map, but just like, what is the terrain of what wisdom and awareness, this present moment awareness, will deliver? And also I'll go through those before we end. And this is a lifetime study, but it's a nice simple outline of that lifetime study. And the first insight, and this is powerful, I remember the beginnings of this insight, even when I was sort of like 13 years old. There is dukkha, is the insight. It's sort of like cruising around in life, and then there's just enough reflectiveness to realize, wow, life is hard. It hurts. I mean, it doesn't mean I wasn't hurting before then, right? But there's sort of reflective curiosity. Oh my God, my heart hurts. It's heavy, or it's tight. And it's the beginning of curiosity about that existential squeeze. Like, what is that about? And the next insight is, this should be understood. Like, this is relevant that I'm hurting, that there's a squeeze here. It's not something to brush away or to blame. Well, it's just because I got up late, or I drank too much yesterday, or I'm anxious about this thing. Because part of that, there is this dukkha, is the sense that it's like a kind of curiosity, like, I'm not really willing to accept the ways that I kind of brush it aside anymore. And then with that second insight is like, it's really a teacher of mine. It's not something to be avoided. It's not something to kind of want some religious or spiritual teaching to kind of plaster over it. Okay, now I get it. It's just this, but it's just on an intellectual level. So I don't really have to dig in and feel into it. Oh yeah, it's just attachment. Like from a Buddhist perspective, okay, now you know. It's just because I'm attached. I'm taking desire personally. I'm getting attached. I'm identified. Okay. No, it's like, no, it's a teacher, a respected teacher. And we want to have an intimate, honest relationship with that teacher. There is dukkha. It should be understood. That's you're my teacher. It has been understood. So these are the first three insights. And if you look through your life, you'll see you've been working on all three of those insights. Little moments here and there in your life where there was some more profound clarity. Oh yeah, there is this dukkha in my life. Not that you'd use that word, of course. This is a teacher. There's something for me to learn here that I'm not clearly understanding yet. Like, why does this hurt so much? I wanted to say it's because this person was mean to me. But that doesn't really hold water for me anymore. Yeah, I wouldn't have noticed it, but the fact that this heart is vulnerable to somebody who's having a bad day or somebody who just has a bad personality, whatever it might be, like, that's interesting. Why is this heart so vulnerable to uncertainty, to what can happen? And the third is, I really do have an honest, like whenever dukkha arises, I'm interested and I'm opening. Like one teacher said, I'm in the downtown of suffering. It's not easy, right? But it's a real change, because immediately our normal habit, cultural habit, is to pretend it ain't there, to hide from it, or to plaster some idea, my interpretation about what it is, so I don't actually have to let it reveal itself. When it does reveal itself, we begin the next three insights. There's a cause. Like I mentioned, a conditional, this arises conditionally. Without the supporting causes, my heart doesn't get burdened, doesn't get tight, doesn't get afraid, doesn't get anxious, doesn't have that deep loneliness or longing. What's the cause? It's a attachment to desire, or taking things personally. It's not the desire, right? Because that's just part of life, having desire. It's the misunderstanding or the misuse of desire. Do we use, the answer is yes, by the way, do we use desire to get tight? Have you used desire to get tight? I have, all the time. Like my mind will flash something in front of me, like, buy a house in a nice place overlooking Lake Superior, right? And then the mind will grab that as if I have that, then there will be somebody who will be happy in some kind of meaningful way, right? And then it becomes a weight in my heart because I don't have it, right? Or I want to be healthy, or I don't want to have to take 30 pills a day, you know? Oh, when I don't have to do all that medication, then I'll be happy, or something like that. But we can know, like, the unpleasantness of whatever it is, or the pleasant possibilities of whatever it is, without grabbing it. So when there's attachment, there's suffering. And then the second part of that insight, so these are the next three. There is a cause. The cause should be abandoned. Now this is easily misunderstood to, I'm going to put this attachment down. Has that ever worked for you? You know, where you see you're really clinging to something and you just say, okay, put that down. And you put it down and now you're fine? It doesn't work that way. But there are moments, right, where attachment ceases, where we're attached, we're really identified, and then it drops. So what is the cause for that dropping away of attachment? Not me wanting to stop being attached. It's this point. This is where it's easily misunderstood. The Buddha says something like, this should be abandoned. So that's actually a moment or moment-by-moment discernment. So we're seeing the mind. It understands that, oh yeah, when I'm attached, it hurts. This attachment should be abandoned. This taking things personally should be dropped. So that's a discernment where we're seeing, oh yeah, this is the cause. When there's this identification, when there's this taking things personally, then it really hurts. Just stay right at that place. It's like keeping that particular note in mind. Oh yeah, here's where I'm attached. If there's suffering, there's attachment to something. Oh, this attachment, here's the attachment. It should be abandoned. I can't make myself abandon it, but I can keep aware, keep in mind. It's like our meditation object. This attachment hurts. This attachment hurts. This clinging hurts. This taking things personally hurts. And we're not averse to that because it's just the way it is. The more we are able to see that attachment hurts, ill will hurts, greed hurts, the more letting go happens. You don't do the letting go. It arises naturally from really seeing the unnecessariness, the unpleasantness, the heaviness of the attachment. Who would want to do that? The only people who want to do that who are the people who have done it and realize that it leads to letting go. Because it takes a lot of patience, a lot of courage, and a lot of practice, like to learn how to be intimate with suffering and not afraid of it. That takes real practice. And we want to start where it's relatively easy, not the most painful place in our lives. Just the little irritations, being a little cold, a little disappointed in somebody, a little disappointed in ourselves, a little frustrated with traffic, or complicated instructions. I was changing the air filters yesterday, you know. I finally realized, you know, to stop resisting and just Google YouTube instructions. And it's like, this is the equivalent of our local or our international, really, bodhisattvas. You know, people who take the time. I don't know what kind of personalities they have, but take the time to put together a really clear YouTube video about how to do almost anything in life. And it's just freely available. Really, it's Dharma, real Dharma in motion. You know? I'm assuming these people can't earn that much money. I mean, from the clicks, it's hard to imagine they earn anything from that, you know, and it took time. And they seem to find some real joy in kind of keeping it short and clear and simple. If anybody in the room is like that or online, thank you. Anyway, just a digression. So I did the first 6, there is dukkha. It's my teacher. It should be understood. It has been understood. Then the next three is, there's a cause for this dukkha, this uneasiness in my heart. And that cause is that attachment to desire or taking things personally. This should be abandoned. It has been abandoned. So we really see how the letting go happens. This is so important because this is radically different and it's really specific to how the Buddha taught. This letting go is a natural process. Don't forget that. You don't let go. Don't judge yourself for not letting go. Don't judge others for not letting go when you know they should let go or you know I should let go. Because letting go happens naturally when there's a clear sense, oh, this is what's going on, I'm attached. This attachment is extra, it's not helping anybody. I can be a human being doing what I need to do in life without the clinging. Ah, it released. Thank God. Real gratitude. But we're not even grateful for ourselves for being a great practitioner because we realize I didn't let go. Letting go just happened. Why? I guess because the heart was willing to see the unnecessariness, the heaviness of the attachment with enough patience so that clarity could arise. It's like any addictive pattern, some of you know, if we just keep seeing it, you just want to beat it up or beat it out of you, but it doesn't work. But eventually, if there's enough stability, enough kind of uprightness where we just see the destructiveness of that habit, that addictive pattern, enough times, the heart just lets go because it's seen this should be abandoned enough times with enough clarity without being averse, right? You can't really see it and hate it at the same time. You have to see the bad habit without hating the bad habit. And the only way to do that is to see the bad habit as a natural arising, not you being bad. So next time you do something bad, just notice that deep habit to think, I'm bad. But that's not needed. You don't need that idea that I'm bad. No, this is an unhelpful habit. It's tight. How do I know? Because it's tight here and it probably causes tightness out there. But we don't need that whole kind of way of organizing experience in terms of I, me, and mine, and you, and them. We could just, this is the Buddha's teaching, it's not philosophy, it's actually a way of living our lives where we see things as nature, natural processes. See if it works. And then the next three is, there is cessation, this is a heart, mind, where there's no clinging, there's no attachment, there's no fixation. Whoa. This should be fully realized, fully integrated, fully generalized. It has been fully integrated, right? So this is the experience of what sometimes we call liberation or awakening or a deep insight into the nature of the way it is. There's nobody here who has a problem. That's the flavor of it. That this is all okay. Even with all the misery and all the joy, somehow, amazingly, the heart doesn't need to be bound up. Doesn't mean there isn't suffering in the world. It just means that this heart in this moment, understanding, being really connected, doesn't need to be tight. There is cessation of that clinging. It should be fully realized. It has been fully realized. And that sets up the last three. There is a path, like how to live my life, that supports this natural process of awakening. There is a path. It should be developed. It has been developed. Because having a deep insight doesn't mean you're done. It just means you finally know what you're doing in life. So much of the path of our practice, like the hard work of practice, is getting clear of what we should do with this life. Once you know what to do, once you have a sense of the path and what it really means, that's quite an accomplishment, right? It means that even though we might pursue our likes and get away from our dislikes, we're not thinking it's an end in itself. We might participate in ways that doesn't cause harm, but we don't see it as an end. The real end comes from understanding the mind, the heart, and how it clings, how suffering arises, and how it ceases. That's actually what we care about anyway. Whether we know it or not, what really matters, like all the stuff we do, is because we think we already know how suffering arises and suffering ceases. And the Buddha's sort of addition to that is, let's make sure we know. Let's cultivate the stability of present moment awareness and get really interested in the experience of stress and its release, so we know how to take care of ourselves. So compassion can really, and if we know how to take care of ourselves, we'll start to learn how to take care of each other. So I'll leave it here. As I mentioned, please stay for the small groups if you'd like. But before that, I just want to make a few announcements. So as I've been saying, I think there are 4 weekly practice groups. The Sunday morning at 10:30, I usually lead unless I'm out of town. Shelley Graff, the other guiding teacher, leads the Sunday night. Sunday morning's both hybrid, so it's both Zoom and in person rather. Sunday night with Shelley Graff, in person only. Tuesday night with me is Zoom only, so I don't have to wear a mask, because I could be at home. And then Wednesday night is hybrid with Shelley. So these are the kind of main practice times for the community to come together. Of course, there are other opportunities, but these are some of the main ones. And then Shelley's going to be leading a half-day retreat this coming Saturday, the 5th of October. And I'll do the day-long this coming month on the 26th of October. So usually Shelley and I switch between who's doing the half-day and the day-long. These are other kind of basic ongoing programs that you could just take part in. And usually the half-day and day-long retreats are always both in person and online. And this afternoon, if you're free, Cecilia Ramon, one of our teachers, is going to do Dharma and drawing. Cecilia is an artist and professor up at University of Minnesota Duluth campus for a long, long time. 2 to 5 Central Time today, both in person and online. Mindful Parenting Group is going to meet next Sunday afternoon right after this program. If you're a parent with kids, please join in for that. And also the children's program will happen that morning during the 10:30 program. And then many other things, including programs at our retreat center. Just get yourself on the weekly email so you know about what's coming up. And we have a young adult group that's now meeting. I think Paul's here today.
Fourth Friday of every month.
Fourth Friday of every month. And that's in person only?
We've been trying the Zoom too.
Okay, good. Yeah. Check the calendar for that, but the fourth Friday of the month for the, are you calling it millennial or young adult?
Young adults.
Young adults.
What's the age?
Roughly 18 to 40, but we're not checking.
Good, and many other things coming in. So we do send out a weekly email once a month, once a week to everybody who's on that list. So send us an email, or somewhere on the website you can sign up for that to get on that weekly email list. Thanks for coming, everyone. Nice to see you here. Please just stay or start looking for 2 or 3 other people to form groups here, and I'm going to pass it on to Lucy for all of you on Zoom.